If you live in the diaspora and you've tried to invest back home or you've tried to do something back home and it didn't work out, actually, you have not failed. So let me explain. Oftentimes, we associate failure with things not working out. But in actual fact, that is not the definition of failure. Now, you see, we derive our definition of failure from, I think, our schooling system. We are given textbooks and then we are asked questions from those textbooks, and then that becomes an exam. I mean, if you answer more questions, you've passed the exam. If you do not answer more questions, you fail the exam. So the mistake that we make is we've taken that concept of failure or failing that exam into real life situations. But in real life, there's different parameters that measure failure and passing. So hear me out, because I know this is probably something that is not going to go down very well with a lot of people, because we are set in our own ways of looking at things and looking at life. And oftentimes when you hear a different perspective, there's always resistance. But anyway, this is my view. So yes, using the exam concept, yes, that's failure, because you're given a set of textbooks and you're told you're going to be asked questions from those textbooks, and then you fail to answer those questions. That's clear-cut, failing. But in life, we don't have textbooks in every single scenario. A lot of us diasporans, sometimes we may decide, let me build something back home. Are you a builder? No. Have you been involved in construction? No. Have you done this before? No. So using the concept of the education system to something that you're trying out is totally different. So if you get it wrong, there's a lot of reasons why that building project hasn't worked out. So what happens now is, in life, we make things very, very difficult for each other, and we judge each other based on this failure that we get from the education system. I remember a time when, this was 15 years in the diaspora, when I used to get calls from family members. I don't want to really mention them because, of course, for obvious reasons, but I was often told that, what are you still doing there? You don't even have your own piece of land. You don't even have a house. You don't even have a bicycle. That's how it was crazy. You don't even have a bicycle. You've been there for 15 years. What are you doing? You haven't even built your mama, her house. You haven't even extended her house. So these were the sort of things that family members, relatives, were saying. It was so painful because they didn't know what my plans are, what I'm planning, and what I'm trying to achieve. Why? Because they've used the same definition of failure to me as how it is from the textbook, point of view. Because to them, or to a lot of people at least, success is when you build a house, you buy land, you graduate, you go to university, you have a car. So pretty much if you tick those boxes, you've become successful. If you don't have those things, you're a failure. And now, do you see how difficult that is? Unfortunately, this goes even deep into marriages. You'll find that your wife will look at you as a failure because you haven't bought a house, you haven't bought a piece of land, or perhaps you haven't even graduated, or you don't even have a nice car. And that is how your spouse is going to define you. And by the way, it's not just wife looking at the husband. Sometimes even the husband looks at the wife and says, well, you haven't achieved a very good education system, therefore you're a failure. Or, so these things that we are using to judge, to make it failures, is not correct. And I'll tell you that I've actually failed for the most part in my life. Then I've had successes. If I go back to where it all started, I tried to be a network engineer. I had Microsoft certified MCSE. For those of you who are in IT, you know what MCSE is. Cisco certified. For some of you, you know what that is. I also have a certificate in electronic engineering. Right? Did I go into those fields? No, I didn't. And I wasted so much money getting all the exams and going into those fields, but I didn't actually go into it. So one can look at it and say, well, you've studied these things, but you failed. But what people don't realize is I left those things because there's certain reasons why I shifted and started doing something else. For example, the network thing, I realized that it was just too stressful for me. So I went into building computers, and that worked really well for me because I was building computers from scratch. I was buying the motherboards, the hard drives, and so on, building computers from scratch, and I was selling them at the time where, I don't know if you guys remember PC World. PC World, the computers were very expensive, and I was building mine at a less cheaper price, and they worked pretty much the same. I made a lot of money, but that was a shift that I made. So for those that saw me not working in the field, they looked at me as, look, he failed. I'll move on to the next thing, which is when I started my design agency, I made a decision to make an advert on Groupon. I had so many clients that I could not even service. There were just so many because I made a discount on my web design services, and I got hundreds and hundreds of customers, of which my business was a one-man band, and I could not satisfy all those customers. Eventually, that didn't work out. I had to liquidate the company. If you go on Companies House right now, you'll see that the company is liquidated. So again, one can look at it and say, he doesn't know business. He doesn't even know what he's talking about. He's naive. He's not a business person. How can we be so harsh in making a straight up judgment based on a business decision that ended up, damaging the whole reputation of the business? And that was just one decision. And then you conclude and say this person is naive, or this person doesn't know or understand business. Now, do you see what I mean? Our people, especially our communities, I would say we are one of the most difficult people to deal with because we are very competitive, and also we come across as if we know a lot of things, but actually we don't. Some of you watch my videos and make a conclusion that I failed in the chicken business. Where have I sat down with you and discussed what is going to happen with the chicken project? You'll find that there was no meeting that I have had with anyone. You'll find that you're going to judge that particular failure and make that a part of me. And I'm saying this not because I'm offended, but I'm giving you as an example of how people are. And this happens every day, by the way. People don't know the ins and outs of what people are planning, and yet we are quick to make judgments out there. Why? Because we are in fear, or we think that we know more than that person is going through, or what that person is planning. And oftentimes it's a put off for a lot of people that are trying to do something in life, because they are judged by these very same people. I mean, sometimes I see all these comments and I just say to myself, wow, this person is a nobody, and yet they're talking about my personal life as if they know me. I just find it fascinating. But the reason why I'm making this video is because I want this video to be a motivation to anyone who's tried to do something back home and they feel like they were beaten down, or at least they were talked down because they are being called a failure. Or even they feel that they are a failure themselves. Actually, I have a different perspective to that. That is not failing. Now, just to continue on with what I mentioned about things that are failed in life, or I'm just using the word failed because, of course, that's the language that majority of people are going to understand. To me, I don't take those things as failures. I also started a business. I was in a partnership. Lost a lot of money. That business didn't go anywhere. I didn't make any money from it. Actually, I lost a lot of money. I went into this retirement program. It didn't work out the way I wanted it. Yes, to you, it's a failure, right? But to me, I've had so many experiences. Remember, I'm not calling them failures now. Let's change the wording. I've had so many experiences to a point where I'm actually so happy that these experiences happened very, very early in life. I want to use the one you're more familiar with, which is the one I discussed on the channel a lot, which is the chicken business. I went into the black astrolops and the croilers, the things that didn't work out. I did not take a professional approach to it. I employed someone who had no experience in the chickens. That was my downfall. I also trusted a stranger. Now I'm using these words because I had to evaluate myself. I trusted a stranger with 10,000 or 15,000 US dollars worth of stock. That was a dumb move. And I'm just doing a self-evaluation. If I'm going to come back to this project, do you think I'm going to do the same thing? Absolutely not. And I can give you a whole list of things that I did not do correctly, which I can fix. Thirdly, I used commercial feed on roadrunners. That's a no-no. Now I know. I can actually sit down and become a consultant for anyone who wants to go into this business because I've done it. Been there, done that. Even right now, I can say to anyone who wants to go back home and start and go into farming, if you think it's going to be a one-year project, forget it. Because there are so many dynamics that go into it. If you're brand new to this farming thing, in fact, we call it farming, yes, but I wouldn't say this is farming as a business per se, because we are far from that. We cannot have a business without systems. So if anyone wants to go into farming, I can safely say you're going to need systems. If you don't have systems at your farm, it's a hobby. And I've been running this farming thing without systems. And therefore, we are safe to call it a hobby because businesses have systems. I have systems in my marketing business. I have systems. I have a lead generation, follow up, everything. I've got systems. So when you look at all these scenarios, all these things, when you evaluate it, people are very, very quick to say he failed. Whereas in actual fact, no, things didn't work out. So because it didn't work out, I'm back on the drawing board and I've actually started making notes and realized where things went wrong so that when I come back to start that project or any other project, I have something to work on because I now have experience. So a lot of us now, the problem is, I exclude myself from that because these negative things that people say, they don't faze me at all. It doesn't mean anything to me. And a lot of it is personal as well, because some of it is actually someone who's actually speaking out of pain. Because sometimes when you look at the comments, some of them, they are very personal, and you can see that this person is going through pain and he's projecting that pain in the form of the comments. You see, a lot of people there in the comments I don't even know personally, so it's very difficult for anyone to try and faze me based on the fact that you're just throwing a comment. No, it doesn't. So if you're someone that has been through a process of trying to do something back home, you're trying to build, you're trying to start a project, again, there are so many things that you guys, we're familiar with. Perhaps we've trusted a family member. And when that didn't work out, does that mean you're a failure? No. It means you trusted the wrong person. You're supposed to be wary about who you're going to put on the ground to do whatever project you want to be done. Just because you have a young brother back home, it doesn't mean that all of a sudden now he's good at farming, he's good at project management. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden he's good at horticulture because he's your brother. No. Sometimes we put our parents there. Does that mean just because it's your parents now, your parent is going to do a very good job at managing the building project? No, it doesn't. We have to put professional people in place, and that's the mistake we made. But it doesn't make us failures. That is it's a learning curve. Yes, sometimes these learning curves can be very, very expensive because you can lose upwards of 40,000, 50,000, 80,000. In fact, the other day I had a call from a guy who was saying, look, I've lost more than 80,000. I was like, what? I thought I was the only one who has lost a lot of money in these projects. But you see, a lot of people don't talk about these projects. They just suffer in silence, and sometimes with editing. And I think this is one thing that I've actually I decided to make a difference to this channel, because a lot of people literally, they show you what you want to see. They remove all the bad parts, all the challenges, and then they show you the finished part. And then the majority of people now say, that person is amazing. Look at what he managed to do. But they've been doing it. They've been failing. Okay. They've been having challenges for the past, let's say, 5 years. And then they had the breakthrough in year 6. And that's when they decided to what? To showcase all their work on YouTube. And then you say, oh my goodness, this person is amazing. Yes, they are amazing, but they haven't shown you the challenges. They haven't shown you that. You can have a field 2 hectares of watermelons. You assume, you know what, I don't think cows will come in here because I haven't really seen anyone herding their cows around this area. Wake up the next day, all the watermelons are gone. Does that mean you're a failure? No. Next time now you need to decide, okay, before I do watermelons, I need to have a fence. Sometimes you go into these projects, emotionally, you build all these chicken runs. You don't even have serious security. People come in and start stealing. Does that mean you're bad at business? No. So don't give up. Just regroup, think about it, come back fighting. Because if you give up, then what? You just have to be more careful because you've been bitten once. Now you have to be even more careful. Right now, as we speak, it's very easy to say, Ruwa Organic is doing this, Ruwa Organic is doing that, it's not on the ground. There are a lot of things right now in progress which are being planned that I haven't talked about because I don't like talking about things before they happen. And then you start seeing them when they are being done. Right now, there's a lot of successes that for the first time at Ruwa Organic, I believe that I'm starting to see the success. Yet you have people right now saying he failed. This is why he's in the UK. He's failed. I'm not saying this to defend myself. Yes, there are so many things that I thought could be done over a very short period of time, and I was supposed to reap my rewards and my profits over a short period of time. It didn't happen, but that's fine. I know things are now going to take longer. I'm now building permanent structures. I know that's going to cost way more money, and I have to be even more patient and work even harder for me to achieve that. Why would I be building permanent structures if I know that I've given up in this thing? No way. So if you're one of those people that are looking at Ruwa Organic saying, you know what, if Ruwa Organic didn't do it, it's going to be very difficult for me to even have the motivation to do this, because he's tried and he's sharing all this with us, but for him it's not working. I'm going to say to you now, I haven't given up. It's just that I'm releasing information, slowly. A lot of you, because I share the failures or the things that don't go correctly, you see this as a negative channel. No, you're supposed to be seeing this as a positive, because what I'm saying to you has failed me should be a lesson for you not to do it. But you know what? Because our culture looks at the downfall and then we put a label. You then say, this guy is a failure. In fact, I could even go down as one of the most failed YouTubers. And you see what I mean? Because I share the things that haven't gone correctly. But for me to start putting information out there where I'm editing out all the hardships, I think that is more of, I don't feel good about it, because I know some of you are going to be acting on that. And I know deep down that it's going to be something that is going to be a problem, because you're going to fail, because you haven't heard about the ups and downs and the things you need to avoid. You haven't heard them. So you're just going straight in because I've just told you that, you know what, I have a breakthrough. I'm making 10,000 every month with my Roadrunners. And then you're going to say, let's go into Roadrunners. Ruwa Organic is doing it. So therefore with this. No, you need to know the ups and downs. Maybe I'm making 10,000 profit with the Roadrunners because I've started producing my own feed. You are going to go in without that information and fail. And this is where now we start coming up with all these theories of this, maybe he's doing this, maybe he's getting help from the government, maybe he's using magic, so many maybes, because you are trying to do the exact same number of Roadrunners, but you're not making money. So it's very, very important to have a much clearer view of looking at life rather than trying to act very intelligent and think that you know a lot. Failure is a very, very good thing. I remember a few years ago, I was reading a book by Brian Tracy. I forgot the title of the book. For part of his program that he was running, he would make people do door-to-door sales and make sure they fail for the most part. And when I say fail, I mean rejections. He wanted, and his reasoning behind that was, he wanted people to go through so many rejections to a point where you don't feel it anymore. And that in itself, if you try to go out there and sell a product and you get rejected once, twice, 3 times, it does something to you. You feel like you start doubting. You start saying, I don't think this is going to work. 3 people have already rejected me. But if you keep going, you'll find that you're going to start adjusting your pitch. And those rejections, and by the time you get to about 30 rejections, it's not as bad. The first few ones, yes, they are really bad. But as you go, down, it becomes even a challenge. You start saying, okay, I want to see how many more rejections I'm going to get today. So already your mindset has changed. So this in itself, it may look like a very negative thing, because a lot of people, they do so many things in life, and then when they don't work out, they completely give up because that particular thing hasn't worked. And sometimes, as I mentioned before, if you're someone who's maybe suggested something to your wife, oh, you know what, I think let's go and do this. If that doesn't work, it's going to be used against you forever. Is that fair? No. It's because the person that is hammering down this message of failure on their spouse, that person has issues. Who told you that if you do something the first time it's going to work? Yet you don't even have experience in that particular thing. A lot of us diasporans, we are trying all these things. We don't even have experience. We don't even have experience. Where have I done farming before for you to say to me, this guy is a failure? Where have I done farming before? Even those people in farming right now, there are situations where the crops don't work out because they delayed in doing something which is very, very crucial. But they fixed it the next time. And that's just how it is. And those guys, they don't give up. They keep going. They have so many challenges. If you sit down with them, they'll go for days and days telling you about how many challenges they've had. But one thing that's unique about them is they don't give up. So I'm saying to you now, if you're someone that has tried to do something back home in Zimbabwe, it didn't work out, don't give up. Sit down, don't repeat those mistakes, and just keep on moving. As for me, there's no way I am going to give up Ruwa Organic. And if you think Ruwa Organic, the chickens didn't fail, think again. Because you don't even know what you're talking about. This is a journey. And this journey, we have to get to the finish line. Whatever it takes. Now, there are situations where people may try to do something the right way, the correct way. They tick all the boxes like textbook. They get their agronomist, they get this, the soil testing is done, the rain is there, the borehole is there, everything is there. But it's still not working out. Now, this is something totally different. And this is what I believe. I'm not saying this is 100% correct. Perhaps maybe some of you can share your experiences. So if you've done everything that you're supposed to do, but it still fails, you're not making money, chances are you have gotten that money to build those projects from unethical ways. Now, let me say that again. Sometimes you're doing the right thing, you're doing everything that you're supposed to do, but still it's not going anywhere. Chances are you are using money that you've gotten in ill ways, whether it's through corruption, whether it's through stealing it, whether it's through getting it from dodgy ways, whether it's conning someone, whether it's conning the system, whatever it is. Chances are those type of businesses, those type of projects, and if you use that money even on your children, you'll be very surprised that child, you thinking that, okay, I've given my child a very good education, but you stole that money from somewhere, or you had to do something bad to earn that money. You'll find that it doesn't have a positive ending to it. That child will go to a very, very expensive school, one of the best schools in the world. That child will have the best connections ever. But for some reason, nothing is coming out of that child. Why? It's because the source of the money has a massive question mark. I believe that there's two forces here in this world. One force is a positive force, a force which has good behind it, and you and me can agree on what good is. What is good is where you're doing something honestly, you're not stealing anything from anyone. If you're selling honey, you're not putting syrup to sell it. No, it's just you get your honey, put it in a jar, and you sell it. If it's milk, you milk your cows, you don't mix it with water. So you're not cheating. That in itself, all of us can agree that is a good thing. There's also a bad thing, and that is cheating, stealing, and even using all these dark forces to make money. I'm sure you know what I mean. So that money that is gotten from from bad ways, evil ways, usually it doesn't bear good fruit at the end. And this is something for you to evaluate yourself. I'm not saying that everyone who's failing or everyone whose business is not working, they've done something, because I don't know you. But I'm just saying chances are that is the reason. That is the reason. You're ticking all the boxes of what needs to be done, but still it's not working. You've taken your children to private schools. You've done this, you've done this, you've done it. Maybe you've stole that money. That's why it doesn't have a good ending. Maybe you are selling things, intoxicants, but you're using that money to thinking that it's going to benefit your family in a positive way. It doesn't work like that. Or at least that's what I believe. So it comes in two parts. I believe if you do things the clean way, you're not looking over your shoulder, no stress, it will work. Eventually it will work. It's just a matter of time. Sometimes we want things to happen today. We want things to happen right away. We're not patient, but sometimes, things need some time for it to mature for us then to get the final result. And that's how I look at things. Sometimes we look at people and say, wow, he's got a house in the UK, he's got this, he's got that, he's got this, he's got that. If we want to really measure success, then the person who's taking the mortgage, although it's permitted, it's allowed, they are cheating. Because I'm saying cheating, not in a bad way, but I'm saying if it's a race between achieving a house at the end of the race, right? And we are judging now these two contestants on who is done well at the end of it. The person who was able to buy a house without the mortgage, I think we need to look closely at that person and say, wow, how did you do it? The guy who's taken a mortgage to buy the house in this race is not very impressive, because basically you just went and borrowed money. That's the easy way. Borrowing money is easy, but really going in the trenches and working so hard to put that money, the discipline to put that money together and then buying that house, that has a lot to be desired. I'm not saying this one is better than the other, don't get me wrong, and this is not a personal attack to you who has a mortgage. No, I'm just saying, if you were to compare the two, the one that was able to buy their house outright, that one deserves more attention, because the amount of dedication, the amount of grit, the amount of discipline they have to go through for them to put that money together and then pay, versus someone who just went to the bank and say to the bank, hey, I need to borrow some money. Here's my earnings, blah, blah, blah. And they calculate and say, okay, pay $1,000 a month for the next 30 years. That one is easy. It's almost like cheating. It's easy. So when people look at us in life, they just look at the finished product. Such and such as a house in the UK. Such and such as a house in Australia. Such and such as a house in America, such and such as a house in New Zealand. And we think that these guys are, wow, okay, we look at them and we put them on pedestals. No, let's look at things on a plain level, because these messages that we're putting out there are demotivating to a lot of people who are trying to do things perhaps a different way. Because who says that the mortgage way is the only way? Who says that? In fact, I'm one of those who does not agree with the mortgage way. I'm one of those because my beliefs towards that are totally different. I don't want to be tied down for the next 30 years in a location or in a certain country. It restricts me. Yes, not everyone who has a mortgage cannot move, but for the most part, yes, because you're using your salary to pay the mortgage. So if we start looking at these things, oh, this one has graduated that, so therefore they are very successful, or this one has a house in the UK, or this one has a car. No, don't use those, and don't feel like you haven't achieved anything in life because you don't have those things. You can still have a really, really good life where you're not looking over your shoulder, you don't feel like you've wronged anyone, you haven't stolen money from anyone, but you're just happy and content with what you have. And sometimes this is what we need to thrive for in life and aim to achieve. Just to be happy with what you're able to do within your means without looking at the next person and the next person and the next person and put yourself under pressure. So don't let your friends, don't let your relatives, don't let your co-workers put you under pressure of trying to achieve these things because of their definition of success. Keep trying. If you've done something and it hasn't worked out, go back on the drawing board, reevaluate, look at where you got things wrong, and then try again. But at the end of the day, it's up to you. I want to hear what you guys think. What do you guys think about this message? What's your opinion about failure and success, especially when it comes to us diasporans, because we are judged that way, especially for me, because I do these YouTube videos. A lot of people have a lot of judgments, but of course I don't really respond to that because people don't know what they're talking about. But I want to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments box below. Let's have a really cool, healthy discussion, and hopefully we can pick up a thing or two from that. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again in the next one. Take care.